In the heart of Montana's icy wilds, a lone wolf, bound for 7 long years, roamed under a shadowed sky. Her scarred eyes, burning with a mix of rage and sorrow, whispered secrets of survival against odds that few could imagine. Every person who dared approach met with a snarl and bared fangs until one man chose to step forward. What pushed him to risk his life? And why did this wolf, known by many as a fierce beast, react so unexpectedly to his approach? The answer lies in a tale of deep loss, hard-won strength, and a bond that would alter lives forever. On a bitter February day, the raw cry of a Montana winter carried echoes of past grief. Tom Parker, standing at the end of a muddy driveway with his breath visible in the cold air, recalled the heartbreaking loss of a young wolf pup he had once failed to save. For 20 years, his work in wildlife care had taught him that not all battles end in victory. Yet that one failure had almost shattered him completely. A frantic call in the dead of night, barely a murmur over the crackle of an old phone line, had brought news of a chained wolf near an abandoned lot outside Livingston. Tom had learned to ignore many such calls after so many disappointments, especially after losing his daughter Amy to cancer just 2 years earlier. But something in that early morning plea compelled him to act. As he peered through a rusted chain-link fence, he saw her, a massive grey wolf, her matted coat darkened by filth and wear, pacing a circle etched into the frozen ground by years of dragging a heavy logging chain. Around her neck, the metal had worn a ragged collar of raw flesh, and on her shoulders, the marks of relentless strain told a story of abuse. "Oh, no, God one, feel one, oh, what in is it? What's up?" Yet it was her eyes, bright yellow and filled with an echo of unspeakable pain, that struck Tom with a haunting familiarity, as if he were looking into the eyes of his lost Amy. What could this silent, suffering creature possibly mean to him now? Sheriff Mike Hawkins, a friend since high school, with streaks of grey on his temples and shoulders burdened by similar cases, warned Tom. "That one's got a body count, Tom. 3 attacks just last year. One of them nearly cost someone an arm." Tom nodded in sombre agreement, his focus unwavering on the wolf whose aggression seemed born not of nature, but of harsh cruelty. This is learned behaviour from a lifetime of abuse, he thought. Mike's voice turned tight with barely contained anger as he recounted. Her previous owner, who called her Bella, was involved in an illegal breeding ring. We found evidence of at least a dozen other wolves in similar misery. The grim details painted a picture of a life filled with neglect and brutality. And as Tom unlatched the creaking gate, the sound echoed like a protest into the cold air. Bella's lips curled back, revealing yellowed fangs in a snarl that carried the weight of many lost years. Yet Tom had weathered enough storms, losing a daughter, watching his marriage crumble, and facing demons in too many lonely nights, to feel little fear. Softly he called out, "Hey there, beautiful," his voice carrying the same gentle tone he had used with every creature he'd ever tried to rescue, and the same soothing words he'd whispered to Amy during long, painful nights in the hospital. Instead of charging forward in anger, Bella seemed to shrink back, her posture one of fearful retreat rather than aggression. For the next 5 hours, Tom sat just beyond her reach, speaking quietly about his sanctuary in the Gallatin Valley, the other wolves he'd cared for, then the memory of Amy, a girl who had dreamed of healing animals, even as her own light faded too soon. As the winter sun dipped low, splashing the sky with strokes of blood and gold, Tom knew he had to act. Bella's injuries ran deeper than they first appeared, and her laboured breathing told of internal battles that needed immediate care. "I'm going to help you," he promised, reaching slowly for his tranquilizer gun. In that moment, as the dart found its mark and Bella's fierce gaze turned into one of pained recognition, Tom's heart broke anew. His whispered apology, laden with memories of promises once made and then broken, cut deeper than any physical wound ever could. The following weeks blurred into a struggle of vet visits, setbacks and small victories as Bella fought both physical and emotional battles. She shunned food for nearly 2 weeks, growling at any intruder, while Tom, refusing to give up, spent his nights reading Amy's favourite stories, worn copies of timeless tales that once brought her comfort. His ex-wife, Sarah, worried he was pushing himself too far, but the fire in his eyes was that same desperate need to save something precious. Then, on a cold March morning, when the snow shimmered in soft hues of pearl and rose, a quiet whine stirred him from his sleep. Bella, for the first time since her rescue, stood silently at the fence, holding one of the old stuffed wolf toys from her enclosure. A small, tentative gesture that felt like the first warm ray of hope after a long winter. From that day on, progress was slow but steady. Bella began to accept food from Tom's outstretched hand, though her snapping at others remained. She allowed the vet to approach only when Tom was by her side, her once wild eyes gradually softening into something that resembled trust. Her change reminded Tom of the look Amy had once given when she finally understood that her father had never stopped fighting for her. Sarah, who now ran art therapy sessions for local veterans at the nearby hospital, was the first to notice Bella's unique reaction to visitors. The wolf, usually so wary of strangers, seemed drawn to those carrying wounds, both seen and unseen. One evening, as Bella quietly observed a young veteran who had lost both legs, Sarah remarked, "She understands what it means to be broken." Her words sparked an idea that would soon transform both the sanctuary and Bella's role in it. Tom never imagined a once aggressive wolf to become a source of healing, yet Bella's gentle presence began to touch lives in ways no one had foreseen. Their first session was with James Martinez, a Marine veteran who had fought demons that no one else could see. When James sat near Bella's enclosure, something extraordinary happened. The wolf, keeping a respectful distance, yet steadily drawing closer, laid down beside him and met his gaze with a quiet understanding. For hours, James spoke of lost friends, haunting memories, and deep-seated guilt, the kind of pain that words alone could not mend. "She doesn't judge," he later explained between tears. In that shared silence, a spark of hope began to glow. Soon, Bella's gentle legacy became the cornerstone of a therapy program that reached out to veterans, troubled youth, and others scarred by life's harsh blows. But just as hope began to bloom, tragedy struck. In the program's third month, James lost his battle with despair, and his death reopened wounds Tom thought had long healed. In the quiet of Bella's enclosure, Tom found himself sharing his sorrow with the only living being who seemed to understand. One night, Sarah discovered him, drenched in grief and leaning against Bella's comforting presence as he finally allowed himself to speak of Amy and the weight of his failures. In that moment, amidst shared tears and tender memories, Bella's silent company helped mend two broken hearts. The therapy program evolved further, reaching out to children hurt by abuse and first responders battling PTSD. Bella, with her uncanny knack for sensing deep distress, often signaled when someone was nearing a breaking point, allowing the team to step in before it was too late. By the end of her first year at the sanctuary, Bella had touched over 100 lives, helping quiet children find their voices, offering veterans a gentle space to share their hidden pains, and even softening the hearts of those who had once feared her wild nature. Tom documented every moment, collaborating with researchers to study the bond between a once aggressive creature and those seeking healing. The results were clear: a decrease in anxiety and depression, and, more importantly, the rekindling of hope in souls long thought lost. On a crisp autumn morning, 5 years after Bella's rescue, Tom sat beside her as the rising sun painted the Montana sky in shades that reminded him of Amy's favourite watercolours. Bella, her once ragged coat now thick and healthy despite the lasting marks of her past, rested her head on his leg. "You know," Tom said softly, scratching behind her ears, "when I first saw you in those chains, I thought we were here to save you. Turns out you were saving us too." The sanctuary had grown in the years since, thanks largely to Bella's incredible journey. They now hosted regular programs for veterans, troubled youth, and others in search of understanding and peace. Each visitor discovered something different in Bella's calm presence, a wordless assurance of acceptance, a quiet reminder that healing begins when someone believes in you. Sarah would later call it Bella's gift, while Tom preferred to see it as a part of Amy's legacy, living on in every life touched by her gentle spirit. On Bella's 7th anniversary at the sanctuary, a memorial was held not only for Amy, but for every soul lost along the way. Visitors came bearing mementos, military medals, heartfelt letters, and even songs written in praise of healing. As twilight draped the sanctuary in purple and gold, Tom watched Bella greet each familiar face with a gentle nod. The old chain that had once held her was now kept as a reminder of pain turned to strength, a relic of a past that had forged bonds stronger than metal. In the fading light, Tom and Bella sat side by side, both lost in thought about what they had overcome and what lay ahead. Could it be that even broken souls can guide others back to the light? 10 years after her rescue, the sanctuary had blossomed into a respected centre for trauma therapy. Modern enclosures replaced the old chain-link fences, and several rescued wolves had found a home there. Yet none carried the same power as Bella. A surprise visit from Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the doctor who had cared for Amy during her final months, brought new hope. Watching Bella work with a group of young patients, Elena remarked softly, "Your daughter would be proud." The program had grown beyond its original bounds, now working with medical schools and research centres to study the healing power of animal care. Even prison rehabilitation programs began to see positive changes in inmates who took part in the wolf therapy sessions. Bella's journey from captive to healer became a mirror for those seeking their own redemption, a path that led from deep scars to the possibility of new beginnings. In a twist few could have foreseen, Marcus Reynolds, the man who had once chained Bella, reappeared after serving his time, seeking forgiveness. Their carefully arranged meeting, set with every precaution in place, unfolded like a scene from a novel. Bella, though older, showed no fear or anger. Instead, she sat quietly at the fence, watching him with those wise yellow eyes, as he broke down and apologized for years of cruelty. That day, Reynolds found a new purpose as an advocate for animal care, sharing his story in schools and community centres. Meanwhile, Sarah and Tom, whose paths had once diverged under the weight of loss and pain, found their way back to one another. Their shared mission at the sanctuary slowly rebuilt the bridges that grief had burned, culminating in a small, heartfelt ceremony held right there in Bella's enclosure, where the wolf herself stood witness to a love reborn. In her final years, Bella's influence only deepened. The sanctuary established a memorial fund in Amy's name to support families dealing with childhood cancer, and the therapy programs expanded internationally, training others to use the unique methods they had developed. When Bella finally passed away in peaceful sleep at the age of 15, a global outpouring of grief and gratitude followed. Hundreds gathered at the sanctuary for a moving memorial service, a celebration of a life that had healed countless others. Veterans, former inmates, cancer survivors, and trauma victims all shared in the quiet reverence of the moment, united by the memory of a wolf who had turned her suffering into a bridge for healing. Tom laid Bella to rest beneath the oak tree where his daughter's ashes had once been scattered. The old logging chain transformed into a sculpture symbolizing freedom from the past. Could it be that a broken chain can mend a broken heart? Today, the sanctuary still stands as a beacon of hope, a place where the sound of the Montana wind through the pines might carry the soft echo of Bella's howl. Not a cry of pain, but a song of healing and love that transforms every wounded spirit into a light for others. Bella's greatest gift was not merely the lives she touched, but the lesson that within every scar lies the potential to heal, to help others find their way back to wholeness. Her journey from a chained captive to a gentle healer reminds us that the deepest healing often comes from sharing our pain. In the end, it is not the wounds we carry that define us, but the love we spread and the hope we ignite in those around us.